And we're going to be talking about foster children and what we can do for foster parents. And I think we're doing more than probably we've ever done with the bill that we're going to sign today. And this college specifically provides students in the foster care system with a coach to help them transition to independent life. And so that's making a meaningful difference, and we thank you for doing it. We're joined here by a lot of great dignitaries. We have our Lieutenant Governor, Jeanette Nunez, with us. We have Wilton Simpson, the President of the Florida Senate, who was really a leader in spearheading these initiatives. We have our great Department of Children and Family Secretary, Siobhan Harris, is here. You know, we did an essay contest for Black History Month where students could earn scholarships. And like a lot of them chose to write about Siobhan. Like they didn't write about any other secretary, it was all Siobhan. So she's doing a great job. We also have Senators Manny Diaz, Eliana Garcia, Ana Maria Rodriguez. We appreciate the great job they're doing. And then Representatives Bush, Alupis, Barrero, and Fabricio. Thank you for what you're doing. We also have Dr. Malu Harris, Provost with Miami-Dade College, who's going to speak. Miss Charlene Lawson, a foster parent for more than 30 years, is with us. And Mr. DeMarco Mott, a former foster youth and now advocate. Before we talk about today's bill signings, I think it's important to point out that we had the worst inflation report that this country has had in 40 years in March. It keeps going up every month. You know, you go back last year, they said inflation wasn't a worry, even though a lot of us were saying that this was going to be a problem. When you're printing trillions and trillions of dollars, the idea that you can just do that infinitum without there being any consequences was completely foolhardy. And so now what you're seeing, 8.5%, but understand, that is understating what we're seeing for the average family. Because if you look underneath how they calculate that 8%, 8.5%, all the things that really matter are going up significantly more than that. I mean, look, gasoline up about 50% over the last year plus. Used cars up 35%. To be able to get a used car. Gas utilities up 22%, meat and poultry up 14%, electricity up 11%. So the staples that people need to just live a basic life are going up much higher than 8.5%. And of course, energy, as you see, is driving a lot of this. And so my view would be, we have abundant resources in this country, and yet they've constricted that over the last year. You need to unleash that. If you did that, that would make an immediate impact, and I think would be something that would at least portend relief for people. But as it stands now, you know, that energy sector is going to continue to drive these numbers. Obviously, the monetary and fiscal policy, you know, this is baked in the cake, what's going on. This is the absolute consequence of that. But the question is, what can you do to really help mitigate? And doing better on energy is the number one thing that we could do, and yet they refuse to do it. And so I just look at gas. I mean, you know, over $4 a gallon, and it's not gone down. They said it was going to go down because they released from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. That's like a rounding error for the world energy market to do that. So the only thing that would make sense, I think about what they say about, hey, you can get oil from Maduro and somehow that doesn't do anything with global warming. But if we do our own energy here, that's somehow bad. That doesn't make any sense at all. So let's get real here, because, you know, we have a lot of opportunities in Florida. We're proud of making sure we kept the state open. You obviously see a lot of boom, what's going on in Miami. But, you know, if someone increases their income by 8%, but then everything they have to do to live is up 15 or 16%, then you haven't really had a pay increase. You've had a pay cut. So this is affecting people across the board, really at all different income levels, but particularly people, you know, who are in our working classes. And so I think I don't think this is clearly the end of it. I think it's continued to accelerate, and we do need relief. And so I would highly recommend that the federal government get with that. Now, on some happier news, we are here today to do even more to support children in the state of Florida. Yesterday, I had the pleasure of being in Tampa. We were at the Tampa Bay Bucks training facility, and we signed a really landmark fatherhood bill. that is going to provide a number of supports to promote fatherhood in the state of Florida. We had Coach Tony Dungy, who's had an organization for a long time called All Pro Dads. Organizations like Coach Dungy are now going to be able to apply to get grants from our Fatherhood Initiative to be able to make sure that we have fathers in the home. And, you know, I was thinking about, and I had two of my little ones there. I had Madison, who's 5 now, and Mamie. It was actually Mamie's debut at doing any of these press conferences. Madison's a pro at it now, but that's that. So we brought it, and I was thinking that, you know, prior to us having kids, my wife and I, when we were married, I mean, we had a lot of fun. I mean, you know, it was like we were young, newlywed. If we wanted to go out to dinner, you just go out to dinner. If you want to decide, go someplace on the weekend, just hop in the car and do it. You really did that. You had freedom to do what you want. And then once you have the kids, all of a sudden, it's not so easy to do all that stuff. You can't just go out to dinner. Certainly, all 3 of them, we cannot do that. That would be very difficult for us. You can't just go take a trip. You have a lot of responsibilities, and fatherhood and parenting as a whole, it requires you to take a lot of responsibility. But I look back at the times that we had prior to our kids, as much fun as we had, and as all the stuff we were doing, I would not trade going back to that for the world. The responsibilities that you have as a parent, you are making a difference in the lives of your kids by being present. They are looking up to you. They look up particularly to their mothers, but these fathers need to be present. They look up to you. And so that is the most important role that you can play. And I just am somebody that I could not even fathom what life was like without being a parent. It would not be the same. And so we want to encourage that, particularly to have fathers involved. You see the statistics. When a kid does not have a father present in the home, the chance that they are going to drop out of school, get involved, trouble with the law, commit suicide, almost every negative indicator goes up dramatically when you don't have a father present in the home. And so we are really proud of being able to do our Fatherhood Initiative and signing that piece of legislation into law. I think it will make a huge difference. You know, some of these things, when you're talking about fatherhood, you're talking about what we're going to talk about today, adoption and foster care, it's not necessarily the most scintillating issues in terms of what would be on the news coverage or things like that, because there's just other things that folks gravitate toward. But tell me things that are honestly much more important than this. I mean, this is really where the rubber meets the road. And so this has been something that we've had a big commitment to since I became governor, particularly our First Lady, who has really dived headfirst into this. She's had Hope for Healing. She's had a lot of initiatives that really look to promote foster care and adoption. And so since I became governor, we now have, in 2019, we now have 4,000 more licensed parents than we did just in 2019. And so that's really good progress. We also continue to fight to protect our most vulnerable children through DCF and Guardian Ad Litem, who can provide advocacy for these kids. But the result has been, of the 10 most populous states, Florida is number 2 amongst those states for both the percentage of children who are placed with relatives and the shortest time in foster care before adoption. And these are not easy things to do, and so we really appreciate what's been done. However, we knew that there was more that needed to be done. And so this legislative session, thanks to the First Lady, thanks to Senator Simpson, thanks to the leaders in the House, we were able to get across the finish line Senate Bill 7034. And this really is, you can have lip service and talk about adoption and foster care, but are you going to actually put the money where your mouth is? Are you actually going to deliver policy that's going to show that that commitment is real? And the signing of this bill, which we will do momentarily, should leave no doubt in the minds of anybody in the state of Florida that this state stands committed to the proposition that every life counts, all these kids deserve an opportunity, and we're going to do what we can to make sure that their dreams and hopes and aspirations can become a reality in a loving home. And so today, the bill that I'll sign does really 3 main things. One, it includes $19 million to bring the monthly stipend for relatives or family friends who foster a child to the same level as other foster parents. When a relative or close family friend steps up and fosters a child, it could be a very positive scenario for that child. Yet, right now, they do receive some assistance, but we recognize they needed to be at the same level as all other foster parents. So that is going to make a positive difference. Second, the bill includes $25 million to give $200 per month for foster parents of newborns to 5-year-olds to be able to afford child care. As the parents of 3 little ones, the First Lady and I understand the importance of child care as well as the ability to get with kids early and teach them to learn. And we also know programs that are focused on early education and early childhood development are absolutely linked to higher literacy and higher success in life. And so this is why we put this in my recommended budget for this year. And through this funding, more than 7,000 foster parents and caregivers will receive this subsidy for the children that are in their care. And that's going to make a big difference, quite frankly, just from a feasibility perspective. You know, foster parents have to work to put food on the table like anybody else. This will help them in that regard. And then finally, the bill expands the ability for foster children to receive tuition and fee waivers at Florida colleges, universities, and workforce education programs. We are proud of state colleges like right here in Miami-Dade College, what it's meant to people in this community. We're proud to have the #1 ranked public university system in the United States for 5 years in a row, according to U.S. News and World Report. You know, the fee and tuition waiver is important. I will say we don't let them raise tuition, so it's actually affordable for Florida residents, which I think is important. I mean, you could get the best education in the world. You're $150,000 in debt. That's not the way you want to start out your professional life. And so we're proud of that. At the same time, this bill removes red tape and expands the number of students that are eligible for fee and tuition waivers. So, yeah, it's big. So we're making a difference here today. We made a difference yesterday with the Fatherhood Bill. We're making a difference here today with foster and adoption. And I'm really excited to be able to sign this here in a minute. But before I do that, we have a number of great speakers who are going to come up and provide some remarks. And we will begin by bringing in Miami's own, our Lieutenant Governor, Jeanette Nunez.
Well, good morning. Thank you, Governor, and thank you to all of our elected officials that are here, but more importantly, those of you in the audience that have dedicated your lives to helping our children, our youth, our future. It really is an honor to be here in my hometown at Miami-Dade College, the largest college in the country with an enrollment of more than 120,000 students. And what's more striking is that Miami-Dade College, not only in terms of the number of students, but the caliber of students, and the fact that it serves as a symbol of hope and opportunity for so many in our community. And so, as the Governor mentioned, Miami-Dade College has a strong network of support for students transitioning from foster care, and they even have a program that allows these students to study abroad, which is a great opportunity for them to expand their horizons. So our administration, the Governor, has been a staunch ally to all of you that are in the fight for our children. And we've done it so that every child can thrive in every aspect of their lives, whether it's education or healthcare. And so we stand committed to making sure that we'll provide our students, our children, with opportunities to win and to thrive in their communities. There is no more important institution in our society than the family. As you heard, the Governor is a proud father of 3. I myself am a proud mother of 3 as well. Mine are a little older, Governor. They're 23, 21, and almost 16, and the freedom never really comes back, no matter how old they are. But that being said, sadly, though, through no fault of their own, some children face child abuse and neglect in their homes. And unfortunately, they simply cannot remain safe in their homes. And so that is when, sadly, they have to be removed from their homes and entering the foster care system. And we understand that child removals are very difficult and have long-term impacts on their well-being. But by providing increased room and board funding, by providing Senate Bill 7034, which the Governor will sign, we'll encourage adults who have an existing relationship with these children to step in and to provide them with that safety and security. And so this is the least traumatic option. We understand that. We'll hear from our Department of Children and Family Secretary, who understands this issue all too well. So we know that children in the dependency system are extremely vulnerable. And so in order to mitigate that risk, we want to provide them for opportunities. And again, as the governor mentioned, to allow them with opportunities for early learning that will allow them to thrive in their educational environment. And through the expansion of the tuition and fee waiver, we're providing young people who have faced unimaginable difficulties with the opportunity to gain self-sufficiency through degree attainment, through higher learning, through skills attainment. And so all of these options for them will provide them with a path which will allow them to achieve their God-given potential. It's an honor to stand alongside our great governor. It's an honor to stand alongside our elected officials and those of you who have dedicated your lives to this important cause. Thank you so much.
Okay, President of the Florida Senate, Wilton Simpson.
Thank you, Governor, and Miami-Dade Community College for hosting this today. This was something that was very important. I met with the First Lady of the state of Florida 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago now, and this was something that was very important to her. It's something we spoke about with a lot of detail, and as you notice over the last 3 or 4 years, each year we've rolled out a different bill trying to streamline the process, make sure that we have enough foster parents for the foster kids we have. And we've always imagined a time where we have fewer foster kids because there are more adoptions. So we did a lot of things with the adoption process to make sure we were trying to get more children adopted. And I've always talked about several things with the rising tide lifting more boats. We want to make sure part of the tide gets around these boats and make sure these children have a chance because they start out with such long odds. And so we have a new secretary. Secretary Harris has done an outstanding job backing up the DCF and the CBCs. And the governor did a great job outlaying this bill. The non-relative caregiver was being paid more. Now we have increased that to the relative caregivers. So we're looking at it from a holistic perspective and thinking that now these children, all of these children, will be able to have a tuition waiver to go to college of their choice or university. And it's something that was important to make sure if we can take care of this most vulnerable, think of how many other problems in our society we may solve, right? With the DCF, with DOC, and other corrections that we have to go through generally when there's not a father in the home or you have a tragedy where you have to foster a child. So we're trying to make this as good as possible. I'm certain that there will be more work to do ahead. I want to thank Senator Garcia for her work on this bill this year. I know Senator Rodriguez is here, Senator Diaz, Senator Burgess, all voted for this bill. I think it was a unanimous vote in the Florida Senate, and it was something that was very important. So thank you, Governor, and I want to thank the First Lady for all their support. Thank you.
Okay, DCF Secretary Siobhan Harris.
Thank you, Governor. I also want to thank the Senate President, as well as the First Lady, the legislators, I think I said the First Lady, for all of their unwavering support of the child welfare system, for kids who are in the system, and our foster parents who open up their hearts and homes to children in their time of need. I am so excited for the signing of this bill because I know how much it will mean in terms of our ability to recruit and retain our amazing foster parents. I know we have a couple of them here, and I want to take a moment to thank them for all that they do each and every day. Their dedication does not go unnoticed. It takes a special person to be a foster parent, and we cannot thank them enough for making a positive difference in a child's life. It is incredibly important to the department that our foster parents have the resources needed to be successful for the children in their care, and that potential foster parents know that there are resources available in their time of need. While we have a strong foundation of amazing foster parents, we are always trying to recruit more to ensure every child has a welcoming home during their time of need that fits their particular needs. This bill is also exciting because it expands our toolbox of resources to help young people exiting the foster care system to reach self-sufficiency. Through the Office of Continuing Care created by the legislature and the First Lady's Hope Florida, a Pathway to Prosperity initiative, we are able to provide so much more one-on-one guidance and support than ever before to our current and former foster youth as they're taking their first steps into independence. For many of the kids in the system, attending and graduating college is defying the odds. Legislation like this helps us stack the deck in their favor even more. We're also excited that the funding can be used to support vocational programs and other workforce development options so our foster youth can be as economically self-sufficient as possible no matter what path they choose. We are looking forward to implementing this legislation with our CBC partners. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Dr. Harrison.
Thank you, Governor, Lieutenant Governor, elected officials, Trustee Alonso, friends and colleagues. On behalf of College President Madeline Pumariega, welcome to Miami-Dade College. And so today is another bright day here at Miami-Dade College in our community and in our state as we witness the signing of this bill that will provide expanded opportunities to the most vulnerable in our community, the most vulnerable youth in our community. And it is with great pride that I say that Miami-Dade College is the largest college campus-based program for students who have aged out of foster care and are seeking a college education, a credential, to uplift themselves and their families toward dependence and independence and contributions to the community. Foster care students and those who have aged out belong at Miami-Dade College. Through our Educate Tomorrow program here at the college, and our Director of Single Stop, Jeanette Mapp, is in the audience, our Director of Educate Tomorrow, Ms. Wendy Joseph. These two ladies, stand up very quickly for me, please, are doing God's work here at Miami-Dade College. Serving our students, providing the academic advising, financial literacy, career and workforce readiness, internships with local companies to ensure that our students not only have the academic skills, but are connected immediately with the workforce. And talk about expanded opportunities, and thank you so much again, Governor and the legislature, for providing these opportunities. But right here, our students who are in Educate Tomorrow, as the Lieutenant Governor mentioned, are participating in study abroad programs. And today, I'd like to introduce one of those students to you who is truly a shining star, and her name is Claudia Grenet. Claudia, just step up for a moment, please. So, Claudia graduated from Miami-Dade College with an associate degree and a baccalaureate degree as well in computer information systems. During her studies, Claudia participated in many programs to strengthen not only her academic development, but also her professional and workforce acumen. She completed several professional internships in local companies that laid the foundation for where she is today, solidly placed in the workforce. Talk about purpose and passion. Claudia traveled to Ecuador. She was one of our scholars that participated in a study abroad experience. And she distinguished herself by pitching a winning proposal to the Aspen Institute that then evolved into Miami-Dade College's Changemaker Peer Mentor Program. Claudia, thank you so much for that. A true example of what it means to be a lifelong learner, Claudia is currently pursuing a master's degree in computer engineering and a college credit certificate right here at Miami-Dade College. She came back to her alma mater for this, in network security. She's employed full-time as an app coordinator. Claudia founded a nonprofit organization. It's called STEM Access for Girls, and she's giving back. She received and she's giving back, lifting up young girls in under-resourced communities and really providing and paving a pathway to the workforce for these students. As I close, I again convey many, many thanks to our governor, lieutenant governor, the legislators here today, and all in our community who serve our most precious resource, our youth. Thank you very much.
Okay, DeMarco Mott.
Good morning. I think the governor and lieutenant governor scare me away from having kids, and I'm young, so. But I would like to thank again all of them for what they did in the Senate with this bill. I think as an advocate for youths, this is something that we have been pushing for a while. We hear the stories, we get the calls. We needed this, and I think it helps. I aged out of care in Miami-Dade and Monroe County. I took advantage of the tuition waiver. I had the greatest foster parents in the world. Shout out to they love this guy, by the way. So, I received those services that they speak of at Miami-Dade College from Educate Tomorrow. I was at Kendall campus. That was my first experience in college. It was the foundation to my success, like I always said. Wendy is definitely doing God's work. I remember when I met her, I was fresh in foster care. I was like, how am I going to live with these strangers? I don't know who they are. And Wendy made sure I was able to get in college, get in the door, and she made it a lot easier. But that's not all. After that period, I am now serving on the board of directors for Educate Tomorrow. And we are definitely excited to hear this news from the governor's office that we have some more money so we can go ahead and do some more God's work. So I wanted to say thank you all very much. I mean, it's definitely exciting to know that we can do a lot more. The community has rallied around doing the job with what we have. And now when we see that the policymakers are listening, they're sending us the money, we can now go ahead and do more good work. And I'm very happy. Whatever we're able to invest in our children now, we get that reward in our society later. And that joys my heart. And I thank you all very much for being here and for signing this bill. Thank you.
All right, good job. Okay, Carlin Lawson.
Thank you. Thank you, Governor. My name is Carlene Lawson. I've been a foster parent for 30 years plus, and I've raised about a good 75 to 80 kids to come through my home. I adopted 5 kids, and it has been a tremendous experience for my life. I did the medical children, I did the regular kids, I did the independent kids, I did like so many kids, and I am just so happy to be here for the kids. I am so happy. I am so thankful for what the governor and everybody else, because I don't know everybody's name, are doing for our children. I mean, I am such a happy parent for the things that the kids that have come through my home and my life has achieved. And I am still so happy too, because a lot of them, they come back. Like, I mean, I only adopted 5, but I've had like 75 to 80, and all of them are calling me mom. And so I'm a proud parent to be in this system. I am so grateful for what I do to give back to the system, to help the children. My daughter, Tiana, that stands here today, she's 18, and she is doing so tremendously from the time that when she was a baby, and I am so proud of her. She has become such a tremendous young lady, and all the rest of my kids, thank you for what we're doing for the children, and I am so grateful for this law that is going to be passed for them. Thank you.
Good job. All right. Great job, everybody. Thanks so much. We really appreciate it, and we're excited. I mean, this is a important issue. These are not always easy issues to deal with because there's a lot going on, but I think no one can doubt the commitment of the state of Florida after yesterday, after today. Every kid counts, and we've got to do all we can as a state, as local communities, and as individuals to step up and help. And so that's what we did today. So God bless everyone. We appreciate it. All right. Anybody have any questions? Yes. Okay, no, because, I mean, from the very beginning, actually, when we literally were there right when Surfside happened, I said, whatever needs to be done, I want to support. When they came in, we said we are receptive to the whole range of options that can be done. Well, listen, okay. So we were very receptive. We wanted to be able to sign something that was going to make an impact. But the idea that somehow I was trying to not support it was not true. We were always there wanting to help out. And so we did.
Mark Langsfeld, whose sister died in the crash, said that he tried to meet with you and other families tried to meet with you during the session to get your support.
Yeah, but I've met with him several times. I met with a lot of the families multiple times. I never in any way indicated opposition to anything that was going on. So that's just, Glenna. I supported them providing me a bill that would address the issue. Of course I did. I've said that repeatedly from the very beginning. Okay. If they can do it, then they can do it, absolutely. But they have to agree on something. It's the same thing we want to do insurance. I think we're going to be able to get there, but they didn't get the insurance done, and so we've got to get a product, and then you get it across the finish line. And so the minute they tell me that that is something that they have the ability to get across, we could add it, absolutely. Glenna.
Hearts, minds, and wallets of this community. Yesterday, there was a bipartisan-ish call for including that in the special session or having a special session. Yay or nay on that? And also, if there is, what steps, off the top of your head, can be done to focus on the consumer end instead of on the insurer's end?
Well, a couple things. One, yes, on special session. I don't think they have a product that's ready for prime time next week, but I think shortly thereafter, we're going to have to deal with it. I know Senator Simpson's been supportive of it. We're working with different senators who are creating a panoply of options in terms of being able to stabilize this market. Some of the things that you look at, there's a number of problems with what's going on. Part of it, just be frank, we're at a worst inflation in 40 years, and so everything is going up. Anyone that tells you all of a sudden we can snap our fingers and stop at the state level massive inflation is not being honest with you. However, there are underlying dysfunctions in our state market that is causing some of these companies to fail, causing rates to go up even more than the rate of inflation would indicate. And so how do you address them? Well, there's a couple different things. I mean, one, we're seeing there's going to be problems in the reinsurance market. Is there anything we can do short term to try to stabilize those rates so more companies don't fail? Then what are the inefficiencies, or where are people kind of gaming the system? I mean, for example, we have parts of the state that haven't really been hit by a storm in the last number of years, and you have massive litigation, massive roof claims. Guess what? I mean, that is going to drive the cost up when you have that. So making sure the incentives are aligned properly and having people be willing to write policies in the state of Florida is something that's very, very important. Of course, what I want from the system is I don't want someone to go game the system, have litigation that's going to drive up the cost. On the other side, if we have a storm, your home's damaged, they should come in and give you what you need to be able to fix it. And it shouldn't be haggling, when you have this legitimate damage. We actually had one of the storms, my wife's car got totaled from one of the storms. I think it may have been Irma. USAA, I had joined them in the Navy. They came, 2 days later, they wrote the check for the whole thing. I mean, that to me is how it should operate. But clearly, there's a lot of dysfunction in this market. And so the minute that there's a product that's available, we will be able to, to call that and get folks in. And I think it's something that we wanted to address it. I know Wilton and the Senate had a bunch of stuff. I know Senator Brandis, it just kind of ran aground at the end there. But you know what? These bills don't take effect till July 1st anyways, by and large, so we still have time to do it, and I think we will. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Governor, thank you. Kimberly Leonard with Business Insider. In the last week or so, we've seen major outbreaks of COVID-19 among the elite in D.C., including Democrats in Congress, the Biden administration. How does it feel to read about that news, knowing that the administration has been so critical of your approach to the pandemic?
So just let me say it very clearly to all Floridians, you just saw Philadelphia impose an indoor mandate. You're going to have potentially some of these other deep blue jurisdictions go back to restrictions and mandate. You look what's happening in Shanghai, they have everybody under a brutal lockdown. So I just want to be very clear, as long as I sit in the chair in which I sit, no Floridian will be restricted, mandated, or locked down in any possible way. And so when you see some of these folks who want to impose that, and let's just be clear, you look over the last 2 years, there's a cottage industry that was developed of lockdown politicians and media personalities who would either impose or support lockdown policies in their jurisdictions or advocated on their TV shows, criticize Florida mercilessly, and then the first chance they get to get out from under the yoke of those bad policies, you see them in Miami or Palm Beach or all these other places. And if I had $1 for every lockdown politician that escaped their own policies to come to our free state, I would be set for life. That's just a fact. Now, some people will say, oh, they're hypocrites, all this stuff. Yeah, they are, but that's not the issue. The issue is if they thought their policies really were necessary and these mitigations really were effective, they would be abiding by it. They're not abiding by it because they know it's all about politics and control. So that's why they don't wear the mask. That's why they don't do all this stuff, because they know it is COVID theater. And so we don't have any tolerance for COVID theater in the state of Florida. I can tell you this state would not be booming the way it is if we had COVID theater. People know that this is the free state. They know that they can come here and make their own decisions. They know they're not going to be harassed to show medical papers to go have a hamburger somewhere. They know they're going to be able to enjoy life, and so we are never going to waver from that. I will say that, if it weren't for our leadership, we would have had kids locked out of school for a year throughout this state. We would have had hundreds of thousands of people tossed out of work. We would have had small businesses and family-owned businesses that would have collapsed. And instead of that, we weren't locking those people down. We were lifting them up. And that was the right thing to do.
You and President Simpson seem to have a very good working relationship. Would you like to take this moment to endorse him for the agriculture, or is there something keeping you from that?
Nice. So, look, we've got some more work to do for coming up, and so, but I've said, he has been able to deliver, I think, a lot of really, really big policy victories. I think if you look, since I've been governor, we've obviously done a lot, but just in the last 2 years, some of the things that have really made an impact have been really, really significant. And so, at the end of the day, people can talk and do all this, and that's fine, but what are you actually doing? What are your deeds? Are you producing? Are you actually getting things done? And I think that's one of the things that separated Florida is we're out there leading on issues, but we're actually getting things done. And I think that's what people want to see. And so, he deserves credit for it. Yes, sir.
Governor, can I ask you about redistricting?
Sure.
You had proposed an original set of maps. We're not quite sure who drew them. And now you're going to be drawing a new set of congressional maps. Can you give us an idea of who's going to draw them, what sort of record retention you're going to have, and how you're going to make sure that you avoid intentionally drawing districts that favor or disfavor incumbents or political parties?
So I thought that, so everything's been done by our legal office and attorneys and all that from the very beginning of any proposals that they've had. The letter yesterday, I mean, I thought that my legal office had been working with the House and Senate to try to kind of have a compromise that everyone would agree on. So I think that what they'll produce will be something that will be acceptable to folks, and obviously would get my signature if we're proposing it. It will, though, have North Florida drawn in a race-neutral manner. I mean, we are not going to have a 200-mile gerrymander that divvies up people based on the color of their skin. That is wrong. That is not the way we've governed in the state of Florida. And so that will be that. And obviously that will be litigated. But I can tell you the original district would absolutely have been litigated. And if you look at what's happened in the U.S. Supreme Court over the last 4 or 5 years, you know, that would be the case. And so those, you have attorneys, you have folks that know the law, and yes, they're going to follow every provision of the Constitution and statutory law. That involves, of course, the Florida Constitution, and that it involves certain provisions of federal law, which they are going to abide by.
A real quick follow-up. Are you going to have certain policies and procedures to ensure that there's a record created to show what your intent was or what the intent is in drawing these districts?
So they're going to I mean, I don't know who's going to do it, but I mean, the people that were involved will go and testify in front of the legislature about the product that was created. And so, you know, this is kind of my first foray, and I don't really know how all this stuff works, but I do know that you look at, you know, how many counties are being split, how many cities, what's the compactness and all that. So they're going to be able to do that. And I think that they're going to be able to do a map from what they've been telling me that will be have less county and city splits than what the Senate had originally done, and have better compact scores. So that, I think, is what'll be make sense. Yes, ma'am.
Governor, I just wanted to ask on redistricting as well. Do you consider the legislative map to also be unconstitutional, considering it was created with the same legal framework as the congressional map? Which
so here's what I think. I think if you remember that, there was an agreement amongst all parties, and I was in Congress at the time, so they changed my district, but there was an agreement that the Florida Constitution required racial gerrymandering. And so no one really raised the issue of, wait a minute, you have a 200-mile district that's going in and out and separating on that basis. Is that consistent with the federal Constitution? That issue was never raised. What's happened since then? Cooper versus Harris in 2017 said the only time you use race effectively is complying with Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, which requires a compact majority-minority population. Don't go from Jacksonville all the way to rural northwest Florida. And so that was the issue. And then there have been many other decisions at the Supreme Court. Most recently, they struck down the Wisconsin racial gerrymandering that they did for their state legislative maps. And so, or effectively did that. They put it on hold. So you can see where they're doing it. So yes, I think if someone brought a lawsuit in, say, 2019, challenging that as an illicit racial gerrymander, I do think it would have succeeded. At the same time, when you're doing this redistricting stuff, when you're already towards the end of the decade, is a private plaintiff going to want to sink hundreds of thousands of dollars into making a legal challenge that may not even make a difference, given that new maps were coming? But it was never challenged on those grounds, and there has never been a district of that length and that shape that has been justifiable under the federal Constitution. They have never upheld it based on using race. The only time the crazy districts get upheld is when they're upheld on the basis of partisan gerrymandering, which the court said is not justiciable under the federal Constitution. Well, guess what? You're not allowed to partisan gerrymander under Florida's Constitution. So the only thing you could be doing is using racial gerrymandering.
Do you also consider the legislative map to be unconstitutional, since it was created with the same legal framework of the map that you say?
Yeah, but there was never a district in those in either the House or Senate that rivaled the Congressional District 5 map. I mean, that was a unique thing, and it was something that was really a legacy from prior decades. So I don't think that they're the same. I'm not saying that someone could potentially raise challenges. I mean, look, I think this whole area of the law is very much in flux, and I think it's moving in one direction very clearly. But there was nothing on any of those maps that raise it. At the same time, I don't have a role in the legislative maps. They pass their maps and they send it to the state Supreme Court. That's what the Florida Constitution requires. Florida law requires with congressional that it get the governor's signature, and so we laid our criteria of what we're going to be looking for to be able to get our signature. But clearly, I think that under how the current map is with that district, that is an aberration in terms of what's ever been ruled acceptable against a federal constitutional challenge. And so I think you're going to have litigation either way. If you had kept that in place, you'd get litigation from one side. If you take it out, you'll get litigation from the other. But I think the odds are higher that a map that is race neutral there will be approved, and I think it's more likely that one that did that kind of drawing, intentional drawing, would be ruled to violate the 14th Amendment. Okay, thanks everybody. God bless.